Welcome to the Camino Cafe podcast. I'm Leigh, your host. You know, I love bringing you stories about pilgrims walking the Camino, and I have a really special story for you today. This story is about Gabriel Tempest, a young pilgrim from North Carolina, his high school teacher, and their 4-year quest to walk the Camino from St. John all the way to Santiago. What really moved me about this story is the fact that Gabriel was diagnosed with a condition that left him unable to walk on his own. This is a story of friendship, determination, and a band of people that pulled together to make this dream come true for Gabriel. I'm telling you, there wasn't a dry eye in the cathedral square the day that Gabriel walked in with his team. First up, you're going to hear from that high school teacher, and then you're going to hear from 2 team members, and then finally from Gabriel himself. Wow. Kim and Susan, welcome to the Camino Cafe.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I am beyond honored to have this seat before the 2 of you, because what I have witnessed in the short amount of time that I've known you is some tremendous leadership. And, I know what it feels like to be a pilgrim, but I have no idea of what it must feel like to be seated in your seats right now, to have walked into Santiago yesterday after completing this dream that you started in 2018. So thank you for coming, and thank you for being willing to share your story.
Sure.
So we're going to start with, you walked as a family. So the first time you experienced pilgrimage was back in 2013?
That's right.
Okay, so how did you find out about the Camino? How did it even come into your life?
Well, it came up on Susan's radar first.
Okay.
So I was out with my girls. We picked up a Redbox movie, The Way. We didn't know what it was. We watched it, and we're like, we're doing this. And so then Kim watched it, and we decided as a family we were going to do it.
Okay. And the kids went with you on this one?
They did. They met us in Lyon, so
Okay.
they did half of it.
Okay.
And they had to navigate themselves through airports and trains.
Wow.
And they stayed the night in the convent there at the albergue. And we walked in, and they were sitting there waiting for us.
So the 2 of you started in St. John?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool. You got to have a half a Camino just as a couple.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so let's go back to that day. You had been a teacher
Yeah.
For Gabriel, and you
Yeah.
had known him for how long?
By then, 2 years, I think. We first met when he was in 6th grade. And so we had interaction at that point.
Okay.
But then by 8th grade, I had become his teacher. And so we had gotten to know each other pretty well by then.
Okay. And what do you teach?
At that point, I was teaching just one class.
Okay.
We belonged to what's called in the States a classical school. So I was teaching Gabriel and the 8th graders a class in logic. Gabriel goes to Latin camp. And so I was there middle of the summer. And I just happened to be at school that day. And he barged out of Latin camp with this huge grin on his face and said, "I'm doing the Camino."
And what was your first thought?
It was like I experienced it, and I describe it as the tumblers in the lock, in the safe. And when he came out, said he wanted to do it, it was like all the tumblers in the lock just fell into place. And it was instant. I just felt like, I need to do this. God's calling me to do this. And I said, okay, we'll do our best to make it happen. And it took me a couple weeks to summon up the courage to tell Susan that this was my grand plan.
Uh-oh.
But very quickly, Susan was on board, which is great. We wouldn't have done it without her. And then we started the process of bringing a team together and raising money for that first time. And we went from there.
So instantaneously.
It was. I mean,
he just says this to you.
Yeah. Yep. And then 3 tumblers for me. One was I have a severely handicapped sister, And so, I had grown up in a household that was very sensitive to and aware of people with disabilities. I had always had a heart for people that have those sorts of physical and intellectual challenges. Secondly, I had, for as long as I can remember, loved to backpack, to hike. It is, for me, a spiritual thing to be out in the wilderness. I feel like sometimes I'm going to church when I'm out there on the trail. It's a powerful thing for me. And then thirdly, in 2015, Susan and I had fallen in with a group from France who were pulling 4 of their disabled friends in a really great, project or effort. And so we walked with them over a period of a couple weeks. We learned how they managed this and navigated it all. We saw the trekking chair that they used. So that third tumbler we knew how to do it, or at least we thought we did, or we had at least enough of an idea that we would be able to make it happen. But it just was like boom. Yeah.
I find that quite remarkable because having walked this route myself, knowing that the two of you had already walked, so you knew what was coming. It's not like someone who has no idea and it's just going to be a walk in the park, right? You knew good and well what you were signing up for to a degree, how difficult of a journey this could possibly be with backpacks and now a chariot. And also, looking at the two of you, you were at a point in your lives where the kids were kind of grown and you could just go and do this as your own spiritual journey as partners. But instead, you put all of that on hold and decided to not only be a part of this team, but to lead the team. How did you find the strength to do that?
We experienced it as we're both outdoors people. We both love exercising hard. The Camino was both spiritually, emotionally, physically refreshing to us. So even though it was hard physically, that just was not our focus. And so that became patently obvious when people would come back and say, you should have told us that, So I don't think we necessarily thought of doing this with Gabriel in terms of the physical part of it.
There were so many ways right from the start that the trip with Gabriel could have gone south really quickly. And we just feel like it was God's grace that time and again we were protected from potential mishaps or misunderstandings, miscommunications. And so it was, in the long run, the wise thing to do, just to focus on Gabriel for the trip. It made a lot of difference.
So how did you go about assembling this team? Because what I saw was a unit that turned into one. Witnessing you walking with Gabriel was astounding to me. The pace, the camaraderie, everything about it. Meeting all of you here. How did you go about building this team?
Well, the first year, we really reached out to friends and family to find out whether or not they'd be interested in helping us. And I don't know what the word is, maybe irresponsibly, was ready to welcome anybody that said yes. And I was telling somebody yesterday, if we had gone through an application form, there would have been people who ended up on the team that really should not have been. However, even those people in the long run played a role in the success of the trip that we could not have done without them. And so it was, I think, just reaching out, inviting people in, giving them the vision of what we wanted to do, knowing people who were servants at heart and knew Gabriel in one way or another, that really wanted to invest their lives in this. And then the second year, we brought some people back, added more, and again, the way, and I think the Camino sort of creates that kind of teamwork, that kind of energy and commitment to one another. And then, of course, this year, being longer, was harder in some ways, but then also gave us the opportunity to really bond as a team in a way that we hadn't in the previous 2 years.
How many people would you say have helped you over the course of the journey over 3 years?
Boy.
I mean, there's been so many people that have given support financially. I would say in terms of the team itself, probably maybe 40 people.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think that's, yeah.
40 people. The American pilgrims on the Camino, friends from there have been so helpful.
When you look back over the team, can you think of maybe 2 team members that really made a difference that you'd like to share with us?
It's hard to pick anybody out.
Yeah.
Because everybody has played just an instrumental role. Even people who would join us for a couple of hours, just because they saw it. We had a lot of it. I don't know if we looked, particularly helpless or pathetic, and they had pity on us.
I think it was Gabriel's charming personality.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
What draws people to him? What is it about him that people, yesterday, people that didn't even know him were crying in the square, right? What is he?
He's funny, he's generous of spirit.
He's gentle. He's kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
When
he's grateful. He goes through life with an attitude of gratefulness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people see that, and they're attracted to it. They appreciate that. Yeah. For me, when you ask that question, the first person that comes to mind is Nick.
Yeah, me too. Nick.
Nick.
Yeah. We have a great friendship, and except for Susan, there's no other person that has spoken the truth to me with such love, and it's been great. The way that he so selflessly has come in and helped Gabriel and all of us, it has been a great joy, a profound joy. And I can't help but say Robin is the same. Over this trip especially, Robin and I, from the second trip, we got along great. I just so appreciated what he did, but this time, it's the same thing. He would come in and ask me things, suggest things, give me advice. That was the voice of God to me.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's been most challenging this past year, getting to this point of actually finishing the journey?
The first 2 years seem to have gone a lot more smoothly in terms of preparation and planning. This year really had a lot of weird twists and turns and hurdles for us to get across.
Yeah.
I had major surgery just weeks before. It had originally been scheduled right in the middle of our trip, and in fact, at one point I had started to call people to tell them it was off.
Wow.
And then within hours, I'd learned that my surgeon had rescheduled it for us so that we could do it. And then we had significant fundraising challenges. We had COVID questions, but each time something would come up, inevitably that challenge would go away, or we would get over that and we'd move to the next one. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really know, I don't think, till about 2 weeks before that we were actually going to be able to do it. And that created a lot of challenges logistically in terms of planning even albergues and reservations. Susan, she's amazing. And there's a lot of people we couldn't do it without, but she's the one that She's so good. She's got so many gifts, and she loves what we're doing so much that she was prepared to really punch through a lot of difficult things. She made it possible. Yeah. It's true.
How does it feel hearing that?
Well, I love hearing it, but I mean, yeah, I don't even know how to respond, but I mean, it's him, really. It is his determination, his dream, his focus.
So yesterday, that walk into the square, I was filled with emotion, and I've only known you for a short time.
Yeah.
Take me there. Describe for folks that weren't there with us what it felt like to reach, to hear the bagpipes in the distance, knowing this journey was closing, that this dream had been achieved. What was going through your minds?
Well, for me, the day started early. The expectation of the day started from O Produtho, and we had intentionally asked the team, at least the team that was walking with Gabriel at the time, to spend certain periods of time just in silence. And so we would walk for 15 minutes or so, just quietly, not talking, giving Gabriel at least, if not all of us, a chance to reflect on what was coming. The second time we did that was just when you get to the top, just past Gotho, where you can see the town, and the clouds started to lift, and we're walking down that hill across the freeway in silence. And then we stopped for break, and then we started up, and we got a little ways into the old town, and we started to hear cheers, and like, okay, what? And then a friend was up in a balcony with a sign for Gabriel. I'm like, oh, yikes, what? And then, like, closer and closer we got, it was just this great welcoming. And then for me, it's an all fog. After that, I was just sort of, my world collapsed, just to make sure that Gabriel was into the plaza, out of the seat, walking into the middle. But I could hear all around me something was going on. And then as I came out of that zone, I just looked around and was amazed to see what a great welcome it was.
What about for you? What were you feeling?
So it was exciting walking in. So I think at some point we switched the team members on the chair, and it was Kim and Nick and Robin and I. And then I heard the bells ringing, the church bells ringing, and then I heard the bagpipe, and I just lost it. It was such a great moment, and people cheering, and the crowd spreading, and just for Gabriel, just that, the acknowledgement of what he had done. It was overwhelming to me. Yeah,
that kind of welcome.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
This morning, getting to Compostela.
Yeah. So great.
I felt myself getting choked up on that final stamp.
I know.
And Gabriel's.
Yeah.
I didn't see all, right? That final stamp and this.
He did it.
He did it. You guys did it. This team. Not one time when I spoke to Gabriel was it ever just about him. Over and over, he talked about this team. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's quite an accomplishment, and I'm so impressed, and just it's great to meet pilgrims like the two of you and the pilgrims that you have assembled, and to see all of you make this dream come true is just a beautiful thing to see.
It's been an honor to walk with these guys, all of them.
Truly.
For us, yeah.
It's an honor to know you. Thank you for coming and sharing your stories. And wow, you're setting off in 3 days.
I know.
I feel like it's another story coming up. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Wasn't that amazing? Next up, you're going to hear from Nick and Robin, two of the key team members from Gabriel's team.
Hey, Nick and Robin, welcome to the Camino Cafe.
Hi. Thanks, Leigh.
And welcome, most importantly, to Santiago.
We made it. Beautiful day.
Now, was this your first time arriving in Santiago?
Mine.
Your first time? Robin, you had walked before?
Fifth time.
Fifth? Wow, okay, all right. So I'm talking to some real pros here. So I met you because you both have been on Gabriel's team, and I am so impressed watching your team yesterday with Gabriel. I couldn't believe, first of all, how fast you moved. I almost had to run to keep up. So it was quite a moment to see you walking with him. So I want to jump back to how this story all unfolded. Somehow, I know, Nick, you were working with Gabriel, so let's start there. Can you describe a little bit to us on how you first met him and how you ended up on this journey?
Yeah, I'm a member of a community for people with and without disabilities in Durham, North Carolina. And Gabriel's mom sent out an email to our listserv looking for a worker. I responded and interviewed, and that was that. And then I served as Gabriel's one-on-one helper when he was in both 8th grade and 9th grade. And the trip came up on the tail end of that. I was an obvious first choice for a helper here in Spain.
Wow, okay. So now, had you ever in your mind considered walking a pilgrimage?
I love hiking. I fell in love with hiking. I got to stay at a monastery in Vermont, and we would go for a 15-mile hike every Monday. That's how I fell in love with hiking. Kim helped me fall in love with backpacking, and that all sort of came about as the trip came about.
Okay. And so you knew Kim through the classes at the school?
Well, Gabriel and Kim and I were in the same school and often crossed paths. We were, the Three Musketeers, if you will.
Okay.
In that setting.
All right. And so, Robin, how did you become acquainted with Gabriel and the team?
It's a rather complex series of events occurred when they were doing the first week from Saint-Jean to Logroño, where a guy I was kind of walking with on the first day managed to bump into them in Roncesvalles and became part of the group for their trip to Logroño. And the following year, when they were going to go from Logroño to cathedral, the guy I've walked with asked me to help. So I said, yeah, good idea. So I joined them then in Logroño as far as Burgos, and then this time from cathedral to Santiago.
Okay. So you didn't meet him that first year, you just heard about the story?
No, I did actually meet them, but at the time I was walking by them, just on the top of the Pyrenees, and there's a group of people, and they seemed to be doing okay, so I just kept on going.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Then the guy I was working with got involved, and I heard all about it, and then I was interested in helping out the next year. So he said, "Come on down." So I did. And finally got Gabriel to Santiago. So.
And so this was number 5, you said, coming into Santiago?
Yeah, 3rd Francés, 1 Norte, 1 Portuguese.
So quite an experienced veteran of pilgrimage.
Yes.
He's the real deal.
He's the real deal.
I wouldn't say that. No,
I would.
No, for sure. Everyone has their own way of dealing with things, and the walking and meeting amazing people and talking and being able to see and hear such interesting things. I love that. I absolutely love that. So it's been, in a sense, life-changing for me. Many levels, but I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. The people. It's the people for me.
Yeah, it always comes down to the people, right?
Yeah.
And you guys had quite an international team. I mean, you're from Ireland, you're from the U.S. What other countries do you think were represented over the course of the walk?
Well, we had South Korea, New Zealand, Australia, Kim, of course.
Cornwall,
yeah, that's our country. I don't think they like to think they are. The Cornish people like to think they are a separate country in England. France as well.
And Ben, the first year was from Germany.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Italy as well. With,
Alessandro. Yeah, Italy holding it down.
Yes. I think we had a guy called Maurice, but I think he was from a different planet. Never mind.
Even
Maurizio, he was Italian also.
Wow. Okay, so wow. I mean, there's the Camino for you, right? I think you covered several of the folks that we meet. What about age range? Who would you say was the youngest member of the team? And
I think we could be the youngest. We walked from Caceres to a fair bit into this stage.
how old was he, do you think?
He was early 20s.
Early 20s, all the way up. And who would you say has probably been the oldest team member?
Oh,
Kim, he's
Kim?
ancient.
yes.
Now, of course, Kim can hear us right now, so...
I don't know. We had a helper the first year. I think Caleb was 19 when he first came on. He and I both helped Gabriel. This is the first year Gabriel has functioned with only one helper at a time.
Okay.
Before it was always 2 one-on-one caregivers.
Okay. So sitting here with you and also watching yesterday as you were walking along the path into Santiago, I was really touched by the fact that you donated your personal time to do this. And I kind of want to get a feel for what motivated you. How did you put aside your own interests in pilgrimage or your own interests in walking the Camino to dedicate this time to being a part of this team and helping Gabriel to see this dream to fruition?
Well, this time I started in Saint-Jean, joined the group again at Caceres. So I had over 2 weeks of working by myself.
Yes.
Which I always find absolutely fantastic. And then joining him with Gabriel, like, why not help? Why not? You know? It's a joy. It's a joy to do it. That for me, anyway. That's the reason why I helped. It's hard to say no to you know. It really is hard to say no. It's a joy. It is a pleasure to be involved with such amazing people, and especially Kim and Susan, and what they've had to do and the effort that they put in. You can't do anything but help. Anyway, you can. So it's my way of helping. That's all.
Don't you just love how the Camino brings the right people together at the right time? Now, finally, you get to meet Gabriel.
So Gabriel, welcome to the Camino Cafe.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and have been invited by you.
Oh, well, thank you. It was so special yesterday seeing you come into the square. I don't think there was a dry eye in that square yesterday when they saw you make your way to the center of the square. I kept looking at you and wondering what was going through your mind.
Oh my, so many emotions, because it's the culmination of a multi-year effort to try and complete the entire Camino from St. John all the way here to Santiago, and I was joyful for having finished it. I was also reminded, because of the bagpipes and some of my Scottish heritage on my dad's side, of the special day that this was commemorating, because he passed away 9 years ago yesterday. So there was that, and I hadn't made that connection of the possibility of bagpipes and all that until it was happening, and that was really special. And I felt like all the people in the square that were there, each, even though they may not have known that, played a important and crucial role in the whole experience. So, yeah, that's how I experienced.
Wow.
Yesterday.
It seemed to me such a moment of personal triumph, of a team accomplishing a goal, but also you really reaching this dream that you had set at just 16 years old. And it all came true yesterday, every bit of it.
Yeah, it did, and I think what I learned, a huge part of this was the amount of people that needed to be a part of this to make it happen, and I mean, just to have that all culminate yesterday. I'm like, wow. And it's not about me, it's more about the team and the group of people that helped me get to that end goal, which was special.
Well, let's go back. For folks that may be listening to our interview today or watching, they may not be aware of your story. And I think you have such a remarkable story at the age of, I don't know if you were 15 or 16 when you first saw that film. You were 15. I'm trying to recall, it was called Footprints, The Path of Your Life was the film that you saw. And there was something about the film that made you want to walk the Camino. Can you take me back there and let me know what it was about it?
Yeah, when I saw this kind of adventure, not many people at 15 would be like, I want to go without my family on this adventure halfway across the world. But I think I just saw it. I saw that it connected my faith with a physical challenge, and I always like having some sort of goal to try to be accomplished, and so it just combined a bunch of my things I enjoyed, and then I knew someone that had done it in Kim as my a teacher at the school I attended, so I knew that I wanted to do it, and the reason for it, and I also then knew a person that could potentially help me get that goal accomplished. So
I want to get to 2018. You somehow get the chariot, as you've called it. It's quite a remarkable chair. It was so interesting seeing it yesterday in person, and to realize how it carried you all the way from Saint Jean to Santiago.
We really couldn't have done it without that chair. That chair is really the only one that I've seen capable of doing anything close to it.
Yeah. So you're 16, you arrive in Saint Jean. Had you ever been in France or Spain prior to this visit in Saint Jean?
No.
Okay. So
I've
can you...
been to Italy twice.
Okay, so you've been to...
I've been
Okay.
abroad. So that wasn't like a
Okay.
totally foreign.
Okay. So you arrive in Saint Jean. Can you tell us what it felt like going, you're passing the church there, you go across the bridge, you begin to go up and you're heading towards the Pyrenees. What was going through your mind that day? Do you remember?
Well, I'm actually here. I'm actually doing this. Like, how did we get from watching a documentary randomly one night to doing it a year later? Like, that's just incredible, and I get just thankful for the people that helped me get to that point. That's, I think, what I was thinking about and how excited I was to be a starter.
Yeah. That's quite an incline going up right away, isn't it?
It is, for sure.
Now, some of your team members have been with you since the very beginning, Kim and Susan. Who do you remember anyone else that was with you at that start?
At the start, Nick also.
Yeah. And so Nick had been one of your caregivers for...
Yeah, so he was he helped me in school in 8th and 9th grade, and he wanted to kind of go along when we were trying to figure out who wanted to come. So that was one of the things we really focused on in the beginning, was from the outset, was anyone can pay it for a vacation.
Yes.
But if God wants this to happen, He's gonna allow the funds to come and have it all come together, and that's what happened.
That's so interesting, because I think I would describe you that in that way, that I think you have the skill of making everyone feel included in this dream. I think you definitely have that characteristic. And I believe that year you walked with a young man who has Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about him? I've heard so many stories from your crew that he just brought a special energy or light to the group.
He just brought so much joy in his different mannerisms. There was a time where a member of our team came up with this dance to keep him engaged, because he didn't want to continue, and we worked with him to do that, and then this year we were able to send him a video of us doing that dance.
Oh, wow.
And he was very happy. So,
what's his name? What's his first name?
Micah.
Yeah. Okay, so you go home after this Camino, and as we all know, COVID happens, and you can't come right back the next summer as originally planned. And tell me just briefly, how did you keep this dream alive during that time? Because a couple of years passed.
That was a devastating fact, because I'm like, I want to go, and I can't.
As we all did, right?
Right. So It really was a group that was formed on Facebook that had different authors and people involved in the Camino on it every Saturday throughout COVID, and that really I was able to talk a little bit on there about our experience the first 2 years, and they really became for me something of a COVID Camino family that kind of allowed me to be like, okay, we can keep doing this. And it's like, I feel like I'm on this roller coaster of, are we going or are we not?
Right.
Can we make up our minds? But I think that really taught me we're not in control of this. If it's gonna happen, God's gonna make it happen. And I think you kind of plan as much as you can, but then you have to let the Camino do what the Camino does. So.
That's right. I mean, this conversation is taking place, I think, because of synchronicity, because of Camino magic. Timothy happens to run into one of your team members, and we find out you're coming, and now here we are. Mm-hmm. That's the Camino. Right?
That is the Camino.
So I want to talk about 2022. You know, you're now 19. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes.
How is, if I had met you back in 2016, right, to now, you're sitting here at 2019, how have you personally changed during this time frame and after this final Camino, this final stretch? How have you grown? How are you different?
I think that is something I'm still processing, and I'm not sure I'll ever be done processing. But I think I have been able to see how most everyone has something in common, and you kind of tend to put people in boxes. Oh, they believe this, so these things apply to them. They're from here, so this is what I should think of. But the Camino has taught me how alike we are, and I think how when we have one goal, it really unites people and makes them open to each other. Yeah.
You know, you have achieved this monumental dream. And I'm sure there are people watching or listening to us who have not yet had the opportunity to walk the Camino, or maybe there's another dream that they're wanting to pursue. And I just wonder if you could give us some words of wisdom, some encouragement. What would you say to them at home, you know, about pursuing a dream and achieving it? What advice do you have?
I mean, I think it's a lot about surrounding yourself with people who can help you realize that dream. Know that it may not happen as quickly as I had this happen, but surround yourself with people who have that same vision as you do, and kind of then trust that if you work towards the goal, you may have to move your target date, but it will eventually work out.
Well, you are proof of that. Sitting here with you today, you are absolutely proof of that. Is there anything to just close? Do you want to say anything to the team that you were a part of in getting here?
Yeah, I'm just thankful to the whole team, people we know and people we remember, and those even we don't remember, but who also played an important role in getting here. Thank you so much for helping me on this journey and achieving this goal. Yeah.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to meet you finally in person, and thank you for sitting down and talking about your story. But most of all, congratulations on achieving this, and I'm just so happy for you.
Thank you. I'm privileged to have been here with you and on this podcast.
Thank you.